Welcome to APYX Office Hours number 11. This is Pete Humiston, your host, founding contributor. And I've got on the line, as we know internally, the man, the myth, the legend, the Giga Chad, Parker White, founding contributor here at APYX. Parker, GM, how you doing? Can you hear me? Mic check.
Loud and clear, GM.
GM. Well, I hope that opener woke some of the audience up, and especially those listening to the replay. And if it was annoying, maybe I did my job there too. But nonetheless, yeah, welcome everyone. APYX Office Hours number 11. This is our weekly series where we present the opportunity for community members, prospective protocol users, existing protocol users to coming up, ask some questions. Of course, if you are stage shy, feel free to comment, leave your question under the pin post under a profile. We'll do our best to get to it. And of course, we use this as an opportunity to just quickly recap some of the latest and greatest going on in APYX. I know that it's been a couple of weeks since we've done one of these, but nonetheless, the team has been chugging along. A whole bunch of interesting data points and project developments that we could point to. I think most notably over the past week, we've grown TVL by a little north of 30 million. We continue to see really good uptick in usage amongst, just pure user count. We've announced some cool new integrations, including today we announced a new Pendle market. We've produced some original content. There's quite a lot for folks to sink their teeth in. And of course, too, a really cool feature unlock that we announced just yesterday. We've opened up the opportunity for users to unlock their APYUSD for APYX USD as early as 3 days with a linear fee schedule trending all the way down to 10 basis points. So a lot has happened, and we'll jump into that here before taking some questions. Just real quick, Parker, would love to get some of your thoughts just as far as, how has the protocol been trending relative to the market? I mean, we've seen a nice lift in TVL. Things have kind of slowed a tad. I think that's really in line with some of the market sentiment. So would love to get your thoughts there.
Yeah. So, um, this week, there was kind of some consternation, I'd say, around strategy. They bought back some debt. They used some cash to do so. They kind of almost simultaneously, I guess it was a week or two prior, but they said they might sell some Bitcoin. And so it was a bit of a change in their strategy, and has some people concerned. I think, candidly, this is very positive for stretch holders. And that's why they're doing this. They're basically saying, hey, look, we are going to do everything in our power to support stretch. And so, but the general market, anytime there's a change, especially in a bear market like we're in crypto, people get nervous. So I think it's going to take the market, maybe a couple more weeks to digest what strategy is doing. Did they sell some Bitcoin yet? Did they just use cash? How are they going to shore the cash back up? So on and so forth. But I think the other really positive story is SATA. So, Strive has moved SATA to daily dividends. Those daily dividends start in about 2 weeks. And, we've had a position in SATA for, basically since the beginning. So we're big fans of those guys. And, they are doing well. And so I think it's really important that we see more of these prefs, quote unquote, work, get back to 100 beyond just stretch, because over time we want to see multiple of these. And I think, Strive has proven that a second one can work. And so we'd love to see, 3, 4, 5 Bitcoin ones. I know MetaPlanet has one, although it's private, not publicly traded yet. We're talking to a couple other Bitcoin DATs that want to do one. And so I think that'll be really important for the category, because for, traditional investors and investors in general, you want to see you want to see a category, you want to see an asset class, you don't want to see just a single security. And so would love to see Stretch have some competitors, and they don't have to be nearly as big, but basically Sailor not having to, do all the work himself. Um and also, removing a little bit of that kind of idiosyncratic, management specific risk. That's always been the pitch for diversification. And that's why, we've held SATA since the beginning, and we'll add more of these prefs. So I'd say, a little bit of a slowdown on the Stretch front, although, we'll see what happens over the next 2 weeks as they get closer to X dividend. I'm feel pretty strongly that it's going to trade up. And then, Strive is kind of picking up the torch and running with it for a bit. So, it's a brief flyover.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, we were chatting internally this morning and talking about how remarkable it is to see Strive really kind of take off and start to position itself kind of uniquely in the DApp pref equity world, if you will, and kind of just chatting about whether we'll see others follow suit. But nonetheless, whoever comes out to market with a pref will of course be watching closely and just kind of think about how to best take advantage of that, if at all, for the sake of protocol and its users. Parker, would love to quickly have you hit on, because I saw some questions this morning. We announced a new Pendle market. This one's expiring August 27th. So right in between the one that's ending in June and then the longer dated one that we launched a few weeks ago. What's kind of like the thought for launching yet another Pendle market?
Yeah, some people they complained about the length of time between the markets. They said, hey, it was too big of a gap, or too long of a maturity rather. And so we kind of took that market feedback and said, okay, well, let's basically split the difference. So once the current markets mature, then halfway between, the long dated maturity, if you will, um, and, the current markets expiring is these new markets. So we're kind of creating a little bit of a interest rate curve, if you will. But, it's basically due to popular demand.
Excellent. And speaking of new feature, I guess this is more of a product feature. We rolled out a cool new early unlocking ability for APYUSD users who want to get APYX USD sooner than the original 20-day cooldown. Our Giga Chad CTO is in the audience. Dawson was able to whip that together. Parker, is there anything that users should know about that? What was kind of like the impetus behind it? And then what should people expect the protocol to do with that, the fees that are generated from that?
Yeah, once again, kind of user demand here. So users wanted to see us, you know, users wanted to see shorter unlocks. They said, hey, 20 days is too long. And so we said, okay, well, we will create this new schedule. Yeah, there's fees there. The fees are to protect the protocol so that, people that, demand instant liquidity aren't hurting anybody who wants to stay in. So, the fees there would, for people demanding sooner liquidity, would flow through to the reserve to, further, over collateralized protocol.
Awesome. Yeah, I know some people, there's a little bit of mixed feelings, though. I think primarily the reaction amongst the community was very positive, but, an easy way for people to get in and get out. And then, of course, that is value that is generated for the protocol. So, um, in my opinion, I thought it was really awesome to implement. And, again, it follows kind of like a linear decline. So, waiting a little bit longer, the fee does come down quite considerably, which is nice. Um, Parker, before I ask you another quick question here, just as a reminder to the audience, if you do have a question you want to come up, feel free to throw up your hand with the hand emoji. Alternatively, drop your comment under the pinned tweet on our profile, and we'll answer it. The other cool rollout that we had, I mean, I guess it was technically a week ago, but I know we didn't get to talk on it, was we actually launched 2 on BNB chain. So now we're live on Ethereum, Base, BNB chain. What was the impetus behind launching on there? And is there any other chains that maybe the community could look forward to APYX going live on?
Yeah. Ultimately we want APYX to be available everywhere. And, we know there's a lot of users on Binance and BNB chain. They are a distinct, in some cases, user set from the existing chains that we support, Ethereum and Base. We've talked a lot about going to Solana and adding Solana. So, it's just part of the standard strategy to support the asset in as many places, as we can possibly do. So that's kind of the rationale there. There's nothing really beyond that. We'll be adding other chains as well over time.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to continue to spread APEX access and launch across various different ecosystems. It's been nice seeing too people from like the BNB community just become aware of APEX and come on in. And so yeah, excited to just continue growing the pie. The other topic I wanted to hit on, which is it's crazy to think about this. I mean, we haven't done one of these in 2 weeks, but the other big juicy announcement that we've made over the past few weeks has been relating to season 2, the PIPS program, and Apex TGE and airdrop. So as a reminder to listeners, we announced on the 21st that we made history yet again. We bumped up season 2 rewards from originally announced the 4% of total Apex supply to 6%. And then we also announced that the Apex TGE is slated for October 13th, which is going to come 2 days after season 2 ending. It's worth noting, this is history in the sense of, season 2 is bigger than season 1, which I can't think of off the top of my head of any other DeFi protocol that's done that. That's in part possible because we took 0 VC dollars. And then the other component of it being historicals in the sense of it's coming about 7.5 months after the protocol launched, which I know folks wanted to see it sooner. But in the grand scheme of things, that is very, very soon. I mean, there's only a handful of projects that I think have TG'd sooner than that. So with that said, Parker, any kind of additional comments or thoughts, as it relates to season 2, TGE, anything you're particularly interested in? Anything folks should know?
Yeah, I think, ultimately we wanted to balance liquidity and project traction and wanting to make sure that, TVL gets to a reasonable level, gets to an exciting level before we TGE. I think a TGE, at 100 million or something is maybe not that exciting. 100 million FDV, that is. And so, we want some time to really build out the integrations for APEX, get it on a lot more exchanges, earn programs, all the different things. There's a couple interesting things we have in store as well that I can't share just yet. And so we just need a little bit of time to land the plane. And again, I know some folks wanted to see it earlier, but I think for the, long-term health and success of the project, making sure we're at a good spot before we launch is the best way to do this. So, the team here, we own a lot more. We're the largest individual holders. And so, we have more incentive for it to go well than anybody. So that's what I'd say there.
Awesome. And then I'll add, I mean, you kind of hit on it. The other part here being the October target. We thought that this was strategic. There's a few other things in the works going into TGE that we want to have lined up and ready to go. And then you know, there is quite a bit of seasonality to crypto and markets in general that we wanted to avoid. Summertime, it gets really quiet, you know, hence the saying sell in May and go away. And that September as well has like a very big crypto conference circuit taking place. So we felt like in the grand scheme of things, October made the most sense. And of course, you know, giving away more supply than season one, which was already a short season. So, you know, in totality, felt very confident with our decision. And we know that October will be here before we know it.
Yep, that's right. And I think another thing I'd add is summertime is typically not a great time to raise capital. Um, and so, wanting to avoid, some of the summer months that are typically a little deader. People go on vacation. There's lots of holidays. And so, that was a strong consideration as well. Um, and then, there's some interesting stuff going on in October that we wanted to kind of line up around. So a bunch of different reasons that all kind of came together.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, I'm excited for the weeks to come and of course October to get here. I know we feel internally good about the progress and success of Apex so far, but we also know that the job isn't quite yet finished. So we'll keep plugging along. There's no other questions that I see on Twitter or from the community. So I think with that said, we'll keep this one a little bit on the short and sweeter side of things and wrap up here. Thanks everyone for coming on and listening. We'll do another one of these next week. Parker, thanks very much for coming on up. And yeah, we'll all chat again soon. Have a great week,
All right.
everyone.
See y'all.